Alright, what's going on everybody? This might be a bit of an unexpected video for you. It's also an unexpected video for me because I was not expecting to get my Nats invite with Swordsoul at our regionals. I ended up going 6-3, which was, I ended up 35th out of 309 players at Greenville, South Carolina regional. But honestly, Swordsoul really surprised me with how well it performs in the meta. So I was like, I'm gonna take a really simple, easy deck. And you guys know that I'm a slut for synchros, so Swordsoul had to be the pick. So I'm gonna go over what I played. Went pretty well for me in the current format, so if you want like a simple, easy deck to play at regionals and do pretty well consistently, I think this is a solid choice. So, Swordsoul monsters. Yep, it's just Swordsoul monsters. These are good Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I play 3 Ecclesia instead of. Please don't play like 2 or 1 Ecclesia. Just please don't. That card is way too good not to play, especially in a format where the best deck doesn't play Ash. So it's basically just 3 more copies of Moyi and Taya. Next is the Tenyis, and unlike the Swordsoul monsters, this is where the deck can vary a little bit. You'll notice I'm playing 2 Vishuddha and 2 Adhara. I really wanted a smaller Tenyi package, because like every single deck is playing like 6 to 9 Bestials. So out of like the 9 rounds that I played, my Ashina and Vishuddha were constantly getting Bestialed. Like every time they hit the grave, they were getting Bestialed. I think I really only resolved these cards like 3 or 4 times max out of like 9 rounds. So basically, in the current format, you're just using them as like extra names to reveal off Moyi or to pitch off Longguan. And they are good at baiting out Bestials, but the real problem is that the main Swordsoul cards, except for Ecclesia, they're all non-light and dark. So Ecclesia is the only card in the Swordsoul engine that can be Bestialed. And this deck really struggles against Druis Worm in particular, because Druis Worm outs Chenging like super easy, and it also baits out your Baron negate super easy. So I wanted to play like a little bit smaller of a Tenyi package to just try to dodge Bestials, but if you play too little Tenyis, then you're never gonna get like fodder for Moyi and Longguan, so you really do just have to bite the bullet. So, like, if Bestials weren't in the format, I would definitely play 1 more Vishuddha and 1 more Adhara, but the Tenyi package just is not good right now against Bestials. It gives your opponent way more advantage than these would give you. And then the Handtrap lineup, pretty standard for this format, I would say. 3 Ash, 3 Valor. And then I also, like I said, play 6 Bestials. So Ash is, it's either like really good or just okay. Like if you have to Ash a Kit Kalos, then it doesn't feel too great, but you know, at least it's not a dead card, right? Valor, on the other hand, completely shuts down Kit Kalos. But also Valor has other synergies in the deck because it's a level 1 tuner. So sometimes you have to like special Ashuna and then normal Valor just to get to your Chi-Shao, which I did have to do a lot, by the way, because some of my hands were just absolutely terrible and I didn't draw any Swordsouls. Like not a single Swordsoul card in like my first 6 or 7 cards. Valor plus any Bestial is a level 7, which makes Yazi. And Yazi, if you're going second, also pivots into your Swordsoul engine, like Moyi or Taya. So Valor is like the most flexible hand trap, but it's also just really strong. So there are times where you really have to weigh your options, like, would I rather affect Valor an opponent's monster, or, oh, I drew a Bestial, and do I want to save the Valor to synchro summon into a Yazi and gain like a ton of advantage off of the Yazi and the Bestial, right? Because making Yazi off of Valor and Druis Worm just outs 2 cards by itself and then like goes into your Swordsoul engine. Valor's super strong in this deck, and then of course I play 6 Bestials. I mean, it's tier 0 format. I don't really think I need to explain why these cards are good. I guess I will say that the reason I'm playing 1 Saronir instead of a 3rd Druis is that this deck has a lot of draw power. I really don't want to draw like 2 copies of the same Bestial. I don't want to make it too common that I would draw 2 copies of the same Bestial. You know, because if you do like Moyi and Desires in the same turn, you're drawing 3 cards. So I just wanted to increase the chances that I would draw like 3 different names. Because having 3 different names in your hand is enough to stop all 3 tier fusers in the graveyard. So that's why I played those ratios for the Bestials. And then finally we get to the spells and traps, which is 3 Emergence, obviously. You need to see your Swordsoul as much as possible. It can also search your Tenyis if you have a Synchro, so it has like a dual purpose. Triple Tactics, this card was incredible. Pot of Desires is super good in this deck because you play multiples of everything. And then Droplet and Blackout. So the 1 Blackout is pretty standard. I liked this lineup. Oh, this deck is 42 cards, by the way. The only card in the deck, in the main deck, that I would change is Droplet. Like, if you stop your opponent's turn with like 2 or 3 hand traps, then Droplet gets no value, or you have no cards that you would want to send off of Droplet. Plus, this deck really values having monsters in hand for Moyi and Longwan. And if you want to negate monsters without them being negated by like Toad and shit, you have to send monsters. And if you draw like too few worms, then you're giving up your playmakers with Moyi and Longwan. You're giving up your fodder. There was only a few times the entire day where I dropleted more than 1 monster, and which is really weird to say, but like the deck plays so many hand traps that your opponent really kind of only makes 1 or 2 monsters that you want to negate with Droplet. And at that point, I was like, why am I not just playing Imperm? Because Imperm can stop turns going second before like it even gets to your turn. And if I draw it for turn, then it fulfills the same role as Droplet to just negate 1 singular monster. And it costs me like no card advantage. So if I were to change one thing, it would be replace Droplet with Imperm. But other than that, like Tactics felt really good. The 1 Blackout, all of this felt really good. I would just change the Droplets for Imperm. But since the deck draws so many cards and you're going to be drawing into so many hand traps, the Droplet just feels bad. And it also doesn't feel great going first either, because you set it and you have to, if you can't put like a monk on board and you set Droplet, then you have to pitch one of your like big guys just to be able to use it. So while Droplet is a super strong card, it didn't feel good for me at all, so I would play like Imperm instead. Extra deck. 2 Chi Xiao, because sometimes you do make 2. And then Chengying, and then Evil Longwan. So Evil Longwan I made more often than I made Baron, actually. Because some of my matchups were kind of weird. Like I played against 2 Draco Slayers, And Long One is insane against Draco Slayers, because it can banish a scale, and it can banish like a monster summon in the same turn. So when your opponent's trying to like do their little scale shenanigans, you can just banish like their Luster Pendulum that they were gonna go like +2 off of. You can just banish that thing. Qixing Long One was super sick. I made Baron sometimes if I knew it was better in the matchup. Qixing Long One's also way better against Tier. So, of course, I was expecting to play a lot of Tier, so I would just, like, blind... If I went first, I would just, like, blind make this instead of Baron. Even if it's not better than Baron in some matchups, it's still fine. Like, against Flu, it's not great. It can banish map, but they don't special summon anything, so... The only deck that punishes that instead of Baron is basically Flu. And then for the other worm stuff, Yazi, Baxia, Draco Berserker, and Chaofeng. I only played one Yazi because if you ever get into the situation where you would like if you don't win the game off of the first Yazi activation, you're probably not winning that game anyway. 2 Baxia is usually pretty standard in Swordsoul. Funnily enough, I never wanted a second Baxia. Like, out of all the games I played, I never was like, I want a second Baxia. Because if the first Baxia resolves, you just win that turn. And then Draco Berserker is obviously insane. There are certain Tenyi combos where you can end on, like, Berserker, Qishao, and Longwan in the same turn. So this is like the secondary level 8 worm that you make once you're locked into worms. And since it was like a regionals, I was expecting to play against some weird matchups every now and then. So I did have the Chaofeng in case I was playing against like Exo Sister or Drytron or something. Because you can make this fairly consistently using a Baxia, and then your opponent just like can't use light monsters, so it just kind of ends their turn. But I did not play against any Exo Sister. I also did not see a single Exo Sister player out of 309 players, which man, that deck sure lost all of its hype, huh? And then these are just the rest of the generics I play. Dragite, Spell Trap Negate, good against certain decks like Branded. Because Branded is way more focused on their spells rather than their monsters, so having this to just kind of negate like a Branded fusion is good. Baron, obviously, very strong. If you're up against a matchup where Longwan isn't great, you always make this instead. And then White Aura Whale only came up once against a Sprite player, because like he just started summoning all of his stuff in attack. Like I think I hand trapped him enough to where he ended on like Elf, Sprind, and then he bestialed me on my turn. We had like 3 attack position monsters, so I just made Whale, wiped his board. You know, got in for some good damage, but unfortunately I didn't really have enough gas to close out that game. But Whale's a funny card. I like having it, because other than Baxia, this deck doesn't really have board wipes like that. And then Links, I got 2 Monk. 2 Monk instead of 3, because my Tenyi package is way smaller. Shaman is still good. Shaman still comes up every now and then to help you like rebuild your boards, or you know, pop some monsters in the battle phase. And then Dark is here just to like link off Druis Worm. Like the only reason I'm playing Dark is to link off Druis Worm and like, you know, get rid of a monster and like free up some zones. You know, because if you do like 2 or 3 Bestials over the course of a couple turns, your zones are going to get like super clogged up. So Dark was there to get rid of the Bestials on board if I didn't have any tuners to use them with. And I did make it a couple times to like OTK as well, because stole my opponent's like big boss monster out of their graveyard and then swung for a bunch of damage. So Dark was pretty nice to have. And then the side deck. 3 Nibiru. I did not side Nibiru the entire tournament. Like this card was literally just wasting space in my side deck. I never put this card in. I never played against a rogue deck that this card would be good in. Because it's a regional, right? So you're not expecting like a ton of sprite and tier. But even the rogue decks I played against just don't lose to Nibiru. So I would have much rather put like 3 Imperm in the main and then put the 3 droplets like right here. Yeah, Nibiru just never came up a single time. Card is just doo-doo garbage right now. I don't know why I played it. Gamma package. This came in a lot, and it was so strong. I would consider maining this if I had the space. Like, oh my god. If Bestials weren't like necessary for the format, like I would definitely play these in the main. Just like, bro, this card is insane. Another card that was insane all day was Raigeki. Because every deck that isn't Sprite and Tier, you put in Raigeki going second, and you just like, it just instantly wins the game. Like against, I played against Draco Slayer. Like it just pops a full Draco Slayer board if they can't make like a spell negate. There were a ton of other weird matchups where it came in handy. Like, even in the Swordsoul mirror match, it's fine. Because you can just, like, bait out... It just baits out Baron for free, basically. And then if they end on Qixing instead of Baron, then it just wipes their board. And it turns off, like, Blackout and stuff, so... Raigeki was super strong. Highly recommend for regionals. If you're going to like a YCS where you know everybody's going to be playing Sprite and Tier, where this card is just not good against those decks. Because if they make Toad, they're going to take your Raigeki, and then they're going to Raigeki you back on their turn, so... Not good. Anti-Spell just instantly wins the game, so you just play it. And Rivalry also sometimes just instantly wins the game, so you play it. And then I played the 3-to-2 ratio, because if I'm going first, I really don't want like Droplet and Tactics. So the ratios was that if I was going first, it would just be like a 1-for-1 trade between these. And then of course you draw so many cards off of your Desires and your Swordsoul engine that you have a pretty good chance of drawing into these. And like I said before, I played against like 2 Pendulum decks, and yeah, this card just, they can't play the game, so that was very nice. Draco Slayer was all over the place at like around, yeah, 5 or 6 rounds. I saw a ton of Draco Slayer. Like that deck is like a regional pub stomper. It kind of feels like. So yeah, that's my side. All of these cards were incredible. Except Nibiru. I never put this card in a single time. It was pretty dog shit, not gonna lie. But yeah, that's my Swordsoul that I got my first ever Nats invite with, so. And these are my cool tokens. So, if you're interested in Swordsoul, I think it's a nice regional deck because it's easy to play. It's fairly simple. Like you don't get tired. You don't get mentally fatigued as you would playing something like Sprite or Tier that has like a ton of different options and interactions. So yeah, that's about it.